Thanks for staying up later. When Michael J. Fox was here the last time, we talked about his most recent release, For Love or Money, and also some of the more serious work he's done in the past, Casualties of War, Bright Lights, Big City, movies like that. But now let's get to the comedy stuff, and it begins with Back to the Future. And at the time that movie is made, you're playing Alex Keaton on Family Ties. Eric Stoltz originally is in the film, which seems kind of hard to believe now because he's a much darker sort of personality, and after a few weeks it becomes clear he's not the guy, and somebody thinks you should be the guy. But it wasn't that simple, right?
My understanding is that, and you've had Gary Goldberg on the show, so he may have talked about it. I don't know. Can't remember. But the way it went, I think, was that Bob Gale and Bob Zemeckis and Steven Spielberg went to him early on, actually, before they'd even cast Eric, and talked about the possibility of me doing it. And I think at that point it was like even reading for it or screen testing for it. And Gary had said that that was actually an impossibility, that we were about to start, at that time, our 4th season, that I wouldn't be available. And Gary and I have a really close relationship, and I think that Gary, and I don't look at this in a bad way at all, I look at it in a positive way. I don't think he wanted to basically break my heart and come to me with it, and because clearly I had to do the show. And so they went ahead and did it with Eric. I came back from Christmas vacation up in Canada in January of '85, and Gary called me. He was doing a series with Gina Davis at NBC, and he called me to come down and talk to him. I went down to talk to him. I didn't know what was up. I didn't know whether he was firing me or what was happening. And he gave me the script for Back to the Future, and he said that they had come to him and gave me a brief history of what had happened. And said, why don't you read this and find out if you want to do it? And I picked it up, looked at it, kind of weighed it, said, yeah, I'm in. When do they want me? And in about 4 days, I was in a parking lot in Pomona in the middle of the night, watching this DeLorean go by. And it just happened like that. It was out of nowhere. And it was strange that it happened that way with Eric. Eric, is someone, again, to me, the caliber of Sean Penn, just an awesome actor. But this movie and this style of movie, again, going to this idea of comedy, kind of being a little more objective than dramatic work. Dramatic work is much more subjective. It's much more what you feel. And in comedy, you can be objective. You can do what is sometimes forbidden, which is put yourself in the position of the audience and try to second-guess what they want. And in fact, that with a character like Marty McFly, which is a reactive character, that's your job, basically, is to be the tour guide, to anticipate how they want you to react to this situation. And it was something that was real natural to me. It's very arch style, you know what I mean? It's like, we're the ends. You got to do that, and you can't kind of method your way into that. You pretty much got to pop the old eyes out and do it. And
the signature scene in Back to the Future is the duck walk, the Chuck Berry thing with the guitar. And I read where you asked the director to not take close-ups of your face. You wanted him to see your dexterity because you had some experience with the guitar.
Right. That was really a lot of fun. I came into that with, again, the other thing about Back to the Future that was so funny was I read it, and people said, you're going to have time to prepare for this. And I said, this is like a girl chasing, guitar playing, skateboarding kid. I mean, I prepared for this for the last 10 years. This is who I am, And so when we did that stuff, and I listened to the tracks, and I got together with this guitar teacher, I mean, we nailed that. I mean, we really had it. And I said to Bob that I said, it's kind of a unique opportunity because you can really linger on my hands and show that I can play this.
All right, guys, now listen to the blues riff and beat. Watch me for the changes and try and keep up, okay?
And it was a lot of fun because I am such a guitar fan, and I have so many idols, you know, Townsend and Hendrix and Barry and, you know, Page and all these people that, and this guy knew a lot about guitarists, and we'd just sit and, you know, for a long period of time talk about guitarists and say, I got to do like a Townsend windmill, and I got to do a, you know, Jimi Hendrix throw it behind my back, and we just worked all this stuff in, and it was, that was just a pure experience, that scene. It really turned out well.
After you'd become a big film star, why did you stay with Family Ties? Loyalty to Goldberg?
Loyalty to Gary, certainly. Loyalty to the character and loyalty to the people. And it was just a flat-out great job, and I really loved it. And I miss it to this day, even though it was, you know, a group decision to stop. But, you know, in 1982, when I started that show, you know, as I kind of said on the talk show circuit for a couple of years afterwards, because people couldn't believe it, but I had no money. I had no money. I owed the IRS like $30,000 or $40,000. I had no furniture. I had no telephone. I had no girlfriend. I had no life. I had nothing. And I got this series. And in a period of about 8 months, I went from destitute to being in the 50% tax bracket. And I had a job that I loved, and I didn't know, I mean, I wanted to be a dramatic actor. I didn't know what I wanted to be. I didn't want to do comedy, and all of a sudden I found out what it was like to make people laugh. I found a new confidence in my ability. I found a niche for myself in the world. I ate on a regular basis, and it just changed my life. And I just couldn't see 4 years later, because of some other turn of events, which was completely related to it and a product of it, that I would turn my back on it. It just was never, I never gave it a second thought. Never for a moment did I ever say I'm going to leave this show. And in fact, we did 7 shows. I only had 7 seasons. I only had a 6-season contract, so I did a year beyond my contract. I just loved the show, and I loved the character, and I loved the way people, I loved how much it was a part of people's lives.